Well, I know that my great-great-grandfather left the farm in Wilson County and came to work in Rocky Mount Mills in the 1890s.
Okay.
I'm not really familiar too much with my mother's side of the family, except that they're from Florida, way back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how far back, but that's about all I know about that.
Okay. And you're just talking about your great-great-grandfather and how he worked at the mills?
Yeah.
Could you tell me a little bit about your family members who have worked at the mills?
Well, everybody did.
Mm-hmm.
It started with my great-great-grandfather and his son. He had 8 children working at the mill at one time. And my grandfather was Ambrose Paris. He went to work when he was 10 years old. And I don't know exactly what he did. He went through several programs during his time there, and they sent him to school to learn different things. He ended up being a shift foreman until he had an accident. I want to say it was 1942 or 43, and he's the only fatality in the history of the mill. And I was told that by Tom Battle, who was one of the owners of the mill.
Wow.
It's been in his family since conception. Anyway, and then my father worked at the mill. He was actually working with a bread company during World War II when he was 15.
Mm-hmm.
And when my grandfather passed away, in order to live on the mill village, someone in the family had to work in the mill. And my aunt and my uncle, they were both already in the military. And somebody had to step in. My grandmother was actually pregnant with the last of 9 children when grandfather died. And then Daddy went to work there. And then he met my mom, who worked there, and I think her mother had worked there before her. And they got married, and I worked at Rocky Mount Mills. My older brother worked at Rocky Mount Mills. My oldest daughter worked at Rocky Mount Mills until she found out that she was allergic to cotton. That's kind of weird. My grandfather was electrocuted. What happened is it was not uncommon in the card room where she's going to be working, because of the machinery, it caused friction, they'd have a fire.
Mm-hmm.
And the sprinklers would come on, put the fire out, where the water would run through the floor, that's upstairs, and drip through the floor into the spinning room below sometimes and cause damage. And at this particular place, it formed a puddle of water behind a frame.
Mm-hmm.
My dad used to know what frame was. My grandfather was a shift foreman, and part of his job at the end of each shift, he had a little book thing, and he would take up the hanks. On each frame there's a little clock, it's called a hank clock. And a hank is a certain length of yarn, I don't know how long it is, but and each frame would produce so many hanks, so they kept up with that, how much they were producing.
Mm-hmm.
And the frame had gotten wet and it made it cut off. And there was some shortage below the mill. And so when he reached up and grabbed the switch to turn the frame back on, it got it. And he laid in the hospital quite a long time.
14 months.
Something like that.
Oh.
Here
And
at Parkview, yeah.
Right here, about where we were at, Parkview Hospital, until he passed away. That's why my dad had to go to work in the mill.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of strange, because my other grandfather, he worked at the mill too, my mother's dad, and he worked in the shop. And he had examined the frame and knew it was something wrong with it. And he went to the shop to get a sign. They would hang a sign on it. You know, I don't know what the sign said, but it was basically, don't mess with his frame.
Yeah.
You know? And while he was going to get the sign is when the accident happened.